I came home smelling like burnt rubber and cheap oil. Another dragging shift at the shop, nothing new. My back ached, my hands were black with grease, and I was just trying to get through the evening without snapping. I kicked my boots off by the door, yanked open the freezer, and tossed a pizza in the oven without reading the box. Didn't matter, I wasn't hungry, just tired. I was halfway through the mail pile, flipping through bills I didn't want to open, when my phone buzzed on the counter. I almost let it go. Probably spam. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the subject line flashing on the screen. I'm sorry. It was from Tanya, my wife. I opened the email. Just a few short lines, but they hit harder than anything I've ever read. I'm leaving. I met someone younger. I feel alive again. You'll handle the business loan. It's in your name anyway. I won't be reachable. That was it. No goodbye, no take care of Mason, no explanation. Just a cold, emotionless sign-off from the woman I'd built a whole life with. My knees buckled. I grabbed the kitchen sink like the floor might give out beneath me. My heart was hammering, but my body felt numb. The pizza burned behind me in the oven. I didn't even smell it. 16 years. That's how long we were married. We built a house, raised a son. Mason's 14. He had school in the morning. He was probably upstairs doing homework, completely unaware that his mom had just vanished into thin air with some guy I didn't even know existed. That loan she mentioned, $35,000, for the shop expansion we were supposed to do together. I'd taken it out under my name because her credit sucked. We agreed it was a team move. Our future, she called it. Now it was my debt, my mess. And Mason? She didn't say a single word about him. She just left. Like we were nothing more than a chapter she got bored of. I stood there in the kitchen, shaking, while the smoke alarm finally went off and I didn't even move. I couldn't. My wife just detonated our entire life with one email. And all I could do was stare at that screen and wonder what on earth just happened. I didn't sleep that night, didn't eat, couldn't even speak. But I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't the end of it. I stood in the smoke-filled kitchen until the alarm shut itself off. I didn't clean up the pizza or the mess. I just dragged myself upstairs and laid on top of the covers, fully dressed, staring at the ceiling for hours. When the sun came up, I didn't feel rested. I felt hollow. Mason noticed it right away. At dinner, I pushed some boxed mac around my plate, barely chewing. He kept glancing up between bites, then finally put his fork down. "You okay?" I forced a nod. "Yeah, just tired." He didn't buy it. "Where's Mom?" I kept my eyes on the counter. "She went away for a while." He stared at me, not confused, not surprised. "Is it because of that guy she was texting?" he asked. "The one with the motorcycle?" I stopped breathing. "What?" He shifted in his seat. "I saw the texts a few weeks ago. I wasn't snooping, it just popped up on the iPad. She said she missed him, asked when he was coming back to town." I blinked hard. My mouth was dry. "Why didn't you say anything?" "I figured if I ignored it, it might not be real," he said, looking down at his plate. I kept hoping it was some mistake. I felt the line hit me right in the ribs. I couldn't speak. Couldn't even lie to him. He went quiet for a second, then added, "I hate her." "Don't say that," I said, but my voice cracked. "She left us like we're nothing." He wasn't crying, just angry, shoulders tight, jaw clenched. And the worst part? He wasn't wrong. "She didn't even say goodbye," he muttered. "Didn't even look me in the eye." I wanted to protect him, but I couldn't pretend anymore. "Mason, this isn't your fault. Isn't your... Not even close." He nodded slowly, but I could tell he didn't believe it. And deep down, neither did I. I was the adult. I was supposed to see this coming. I let her lie right to my face, and now my son was paying the price. The next few days blurred together. I went to work, came home, went through the motions, ate whatever Mason cooked or microwaved, didn't even taste it. I checked the joint account one night and felt my stomach twist, completely drained. She took every dollar we had together, savings, backup funds, even Mason's birthday money was gone. Then the email came in. The loan company. Past due. Immediate action required. My chest tightened. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the screen like it might change if I waited long enough. The numbers didn't lie. I was behind on payments, already racking up fees. She walked out, and I was the one holding the bag. Mason walked in, dropped his backpack, and looked at me. Is it about the loan? I didn't answer. I figured. How? I asked. I heard you on the phone last week. You sounded stressed. Then I saw the email pop up. I leaned back in the chair and rubbed my face with both hands. I'm trying to figure it out. He sat across from me. You shouldn't have to do it alone. I looked at him, really looked. 14, sure, but he'd grown sharper overnight. Like the rug getting ripped out from under him had made him pay closer attention to everything. I hated that. Hated what this was doing to him. You're a kid. You shouldn't be worrying about this stuff. He shrugged. Well, I am. We sat there in silence while the fridge hummed in the background. I stared at the screen, bills piling up like bricks. No savings, no backup, no Tanya. Just me and my kid, trying to survive a storm neither of us asked for. The next couple nights were dead quiet. I came home, changed out of my filthy work clothes, and tried to act normal. Mason didn't say much, but I could tell his wheels were turning. He'd go to his room after dinner and shut the door. No music, no games, just the glow of his laptop lighting up the hallway crack. Then one night, I walked past and caught a glimpse of him typing like a man possessed, fingers flying, face locked in. I knocked on the frame. What are you up to? He jumped a little, then looked over his shoulder, half smile, all nerves. Fixing something. Like what? Just something, he said. I'm being careful. I wanted to press, but he looked serious, focused in a way I hadn't seen since before this all fell apart. So I backed off. 3 days later, my phone rang while I was knee-deep under a lifted Ford at the shop. Mason's name lit up the screen. I wiped my hands and answered. Dad, I messed up, he said fast. You need to come home, now. I didn't ask questions, just dropped my tools and peeled out of the lot. My heart was thumping the whole ride, thought he broke something, got hurt, got jumped. Something bad. When I ran through the front door, Mason was in the kitchen, pacing like a caged animal. The family laptop was open on the table. What happened? He spun it toward me. I emailed Mom. I blinked. You what? I pretended to be you, he said, rushing every word. I told her the loan company was investigating fraud, that they might press charges. I thought maybe if I scared her, she'd give the money back or something. I sat down hard. Mason? She replied. He went on, eyes wide. Except it wasn't her. It was someone named Lexi. Said to stop acting desperate. Told you to get help. Said Mom's happy now. Lexi. The replacement. The woman Tanya had turned into while we were still busy being her family. I felt the rage in my throat. She hadn't just walked away. She was laughing about it now, mocking me like I was some pathetic joke she outgrew. Mason wasn't done. Then Mom called. She figured out it was me. I clenched my fists. What did she say? She told me to stay out of grown-up things, he said. Called me a little brat. My chest burned. She called you a brat? He nodded. Said I was making things worse, that it was none of my business. I stood up, walked to the sink, and gripped the counter just to keep my hands from shaking. I wanted to break something, punch a wall, drive north and confront her face to face. But I didn't do any of that. I looked at my son, really looked at him. You knew what you were doing? I asked. He nodded. I just couldn't sit here and let her get away with it. You're drowning, and she's out there pretending we don't exist. My throat tightened, but I swallowed it back. This kid, my kid, was doing what I should have been doing weeks ago. He wasn't just hurting, he was fighting. You shouldn't have done it that way, I said. But I get it. He looked down. I thought maybe she'd care, just a little, enough to send something back that wasn't cruel. She doesn't care, I said, walking over. Not anymore, and that's not on us. He opened his mouth, then closed it. She picked herself, I said. We pick each other. That night, after Mason went to bed, I sat alone at the kitchen table with the laptop. I scrolled through the messages, reread the parts where Lexi tried to belittle me, where Tanya let her. I didn't sleep much, but I didn't sit frozen either, because something shifted. I realized my son wasn't just helping me, he was dragging me back to life. The next morning, Mason slid his laptop onto the kitchen table and tapped away at it for a good 20 minutes. I had just finished throwing together a sad excuse for breakfast when he turned it around and pointed at the screen. She's at a resort, he said, voice steady, like he was reading some normal map or directions. 2 hours north, Pine Ridge. I found her using the GPS we shared. I stared at the map. Tanya's phone pinged from a fancy lakeside resort, like she was living a dream while we were left to drown. My blood boiled, but I kept my cool. For now. Mason's eyes were locked on mine, waiting for me to say something. Anything. I have an idea, he said, no hesitation. If we can prove she used the loan money for personal stuff, like, paying for this trip, then we can take her to court, get out from under it, legally. I blinked a few times, not because I didn't get it, but because this kid was thinking like an adult. Wait, what? I asked, trying to get my head around it. You're saying we go up there and catch her with proof? Like pictures, receipts, the whole thing? He nodded, eyes serious. Exactly. We build a case. No more playing around. Part of me wanted to laugh. Part of me wanted to hug him. Maybe both at once. But I didn't. I just took a deep breath and nodded. Okay, I said. We go up there tomorrow, but no more pretending to be me. We do this together. No games. Mason's lips twitched like he was holding back a grin. Deal. Packing was quick. I grabbed the loan documents, a notepad Mason insisted on bringing for some reason, and the laptop. He threw his gear together in less than 15 minutes. We didn't have time to waste. I couldn't believe I was about to chase down Tanya with my 14-year-old son. But it didn't feel wrong. It felt like something had finally shifted in the air. I threw my jacket on and looked at Mason, standing there with a little too much confidence for a kid who should have been at school. He was ready. Ready for what was coming next, even if I wasn't. Ready? I asked, trying to mask how uncertain I felt. He nodded without hesitation. Ready. We didn't talk much during the drive. I kept my eyes on the road, but my mind raced. The closer we got to the mountains, the more the whole situation felt surreal, like we were the last two people in the world who gave a damn about what had happened to us. Do you think she'll be pissed? Mason asked after a while. She'll be more than pissed, I said, grinding my teeth. But it's the only way we get out of this mess. He nodded. I know. I had no idea what we were walking into. She could have a whole new life built up there, for all I knew. But what I did know was that I wasn't going to sit around waiting for her to come back and fix things. I wasn't about to let her ruin us any more than she already had. When we finally pulled up to the resort, my stomach twisted. The place was exactly what I expected. Fancy, secluded, like she was trying to escape everything that tied her to us. Tanya had always loved places like this, quiet, expensive, hidden. We parked across the street. For a second, I just stared at the place, trying to talk myself out of what we were doing. But I knew there was no backing out. Let's get this over with, I said. Mason grabbed the camera from the bag, and I made sure to keep a steady grip on the documents. We walked slowly across the street, making sure to stay out of view as much as we could. Tanya's phone was pinging every few minutes, tracking her movements. She was still there, still living in the high life. When she finally walked out, my heart dropped. There she was, standing in front of the resort, laughing with some guy. A guy in his 20s, tan, cocky, arms wrapped around her like he owned the place. I snapped pictures. Mason took notes. It was all too perfect, too clean. Tanya had left me, left Mason, and now she was living it up. And the worst part? She didn't even care. Mason's face tightened when he saw her, and I knew it wasn't just anger anymore. It was disgust. She's not just moved on, Mason muttered. She's replaced us. I didn't know what to say to that. I just kept taking pictures, trying to focus on the moment, trying to focus on the task at hand. But when Tanya looked up and saw us, her face fell. The guy beside her froze. She walked toward us, trying to act casual, like she wasn't caught red-handed. Seriously, she said, rolling her eyes. You followed me here. I stepped forward, holding out the loan docs. We need to talk, now. Her eyes flicked from me to Mason and back to the papers. She scoffed. You signed for it. You can't just blame me. I stepped in closer, ignoring her and the guy standing beside her. You're using my name, spending my money while your son shares ramen with me at home. Mason stepped forward too, handing me the folder with all the evidence he'd gathered. Tanya's eyes widened. She looked at him, then at me. You brought him here, she hissed. He brought me here, Mason shot back, voice low but firm. You don't get to rewrite the story anymore. And for the first time in weeks, I felt like I was standing on solid ground. We were finally doing something. We were taking control. 2 days later, Tanya called. I was at the shop, greasy and exhausted from another long shift, when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't have to look at the caller ID to know it was her. My stomach turned anyway. I almost didn't answer. I didn't want to. But I did. "Brent," her voice cracked. She sounded frantic. "I need your help." I didn't even let her finish. "Not my problem anymore," I said, wiping my hands on a rag. "You sign the agreement, pay the damn money, or I go to the cops." She hesitated for a long beat. Then the words tumbled out, rushed and jumbled. "Someone from the bank came. They're asking questions. Lexi bailed, took the car and left me stranded here. I'm stuck, Brent." "Lexi bailed?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You think I care about that? You don't get to throw someone else under the bus now. This is on you." She started talking fast, like she was pleading for mercy. "I didn't mean for it to get this bad." I cut her off. "You meant to steal? You meant to lie. Don't start pretending like you didn't." I could hear her breathing on the other end, like she was trying to find the right words to dig herself out of the hole she'd made. But I wasn't listening. Then I heard Mason's voice from the doorway of the shop. "Was that her?" I nodded, rubbing my forehead. "Yeah." "She's scared now." Mason didn't say anything right away. He just stared at me, eyes flat before muttering, "Good." I couldn't help the bitter laugh that escaped my mouth. "Yeah, good." She'd been running away from everything for so long, it was about time she faced something real. Later that evening, Tanya emailed. The subject line was short and to the point. Agreement. I opened it slowly, like I was waiting for the punchline. She offered a payment plan, $500 a month. She said she'd sign over the car and the tools from the shop, the ones that were still in her name. She begged me not to report her to the cops. Not yet. I didn't know whether to be relieved or disgusted. It was a concession, sure, but it wasn't enough. She had been lying to me and stealing from me for months, and now she thought a few $100 a month would make everything disappear. But I wasn't stupid. I forwarded the email to a lawyer and went about my night. I didn't feel good. I didn't feel like I had won. But I felt something else for the first time in weeks. Peace. The lawyer responded by morning. He said he'd draft the official agreement, get her signature, and begin the process of securing the car and tools. I signed the papers and sent them back. The first real step toward getting this nightmare over with. That night, I slept. I didn't toss and turn, didn't wake up 3 times with the weight of everything pressing down on me. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like I was sinking. Mason didn't say much that night either. He just went to his room after dinner, but I could tell he was feeling it too. There was something in his eyes, calm, like he'd just exhaled the breath he'd been holding for months. Like we were finally moving forward. When I woke up the next morning, the weight was lighter. Not gone, not yet. But lighter. It wasn't over. Not by a long shot. But the fight had finally started to turn. Just when I thought we were through the worst, Mason walked in holding another letter. His eyes were wide, but there was no panic in his voice. Just quiet anger. "You're gonna want to see this," he said, tossing it on the kitchen table in front of me. I ripped open the envelope without thinking, my hands shaking as I read the letter. My chest tightened instantly. Another loan, this one for $24,000, in my name. Opened after Tanya left. I looked up at Mason, who was standing in the doorway, arms crossed. "This isn't just dirty," he said, his voice low but steady. "It's criminal." He was right. It was like a punch to the gut. I felt my stomach flip, the air around me going thin and cold. How on earth did I miss this? How many other things had she done behind my back, under my name, while I was trying to hold everything together? I grabbed the stack of papers, emails, bank records, receipts, and shoved them into my bag. "I'm taking this to the police," I muttered. Mason didn't say anything, but I could see the way his jaw tightened. He didn't have to say it out loud. I knew he was thinking the same thing I was. This wasn't just about betrayal anymore. This was about something much darker. The next morning, I sat in a cold, sterile police station, explaining everything to the officer. I showed him the letters, the records, the proof that Tanya had opened accounts in my name without permission. The guy behind the desk didn't say much, just took the stack of documents, nodded, and told me they'd open a case. I sat there for an hour, waiting for the inevitable. When they took me seriously, really seriously, something inside me clicked. This wasn't just a mess to clean up. It was bigger than that. 3 weeks later, I got the call from the detective. His voice was businesslike, but I could hear the finality in it. "We've got her." I squeezed my eyes shut. "Where?" "At a gas station. She tried to pull cash off one of your cards. We've got the whole thing on tape. She used your social, your name, opened 3 different accounts in your name. It's all traced back to her." My blood ran cold. I sat on the edge of the couch, my legs weak. Tanya had crossed every line. "Did she know we were onto her?" I asked. "She knew. She tried to fight it, but the evidence is airtight." I felt numb. Not relief, not anger, just numb. Tanya had been right under my nose the whole time, and I couldn't see it. But now there was no denying it. The detective paused. "I'm afraid she's been arrested. Fraud, identity theft. She's looking at some serious time. If you want to press charges, it'll be straightforward." I stood up, walking toward the window without answering right away. "Will she go to jail?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer. "Most likely," he said, like it was no big deal. "The evidence is airtight." I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. That was it. She'd done it to herself, and now the consequences were finally coming for her. When I hung up, I walked into the living room where Mason was sitting on the couch. I told him everything: the arrest, the fraud charges, how the cops had traced it all back to her. He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. "Good," he said. The word hung in the air, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt like I could finally breathe again. A month later, I found myself standing in court across from the woman I used to call my wife. Tanya looked wrecked, nothing like the woman who'd walked out on us, no pride left, no fight in her. She barely looked up. I didn't feel anything, not anger, not relief, nothing. The judge read the charges: fraud, identity theft, abuse of marital financial trust. The words hung in the air like they belonged to someone else, someone who wasn't standing there in front of me. Tanya pled guilty without a fight. It was over in a matter of minutes. Her sentence: 90 days in county jail, 2 years probation, full restitution for both loans and the credit card. Her wages would be garnished, and, as if all that wasn't enough, she owed child support now too. Mason sat beside me, calm, his eyes focused. He wasn't fidgeting, wasn't squirming, just sitting there like he belonged, like this was the moment we'd been waiting for. When the judge finished speaking and said, "This family deserves protection," Mason didn't flinch. He didn't even blink. I glanced at him and felt a tightness in my chest. He had fought for us when I couldn't. He had taken on the weight of this mess, and now we were here, at the end of it. We moved into a new apartment shortly after. Smaller, quieter, cleaner. The air in the place felt different. It felt like a fresh start. I got a second shift at the shop, but it was enough. Just enough to keep us afloat. Mason didn't seem to mind. In fact, he started a YouTube channel about financial literacy for teens. He used our story, piece by piece, to teach others about the mistakes we'd made and how to avoid them. The kid was using our mess to help others, and I couldn't have been prouder. One night, after a long day, he looked up from his laptop and asked, "You think she'll ever try to come back?" I didn't hesitate. "Doesn't matter. She doesn't own a single part of us anymore." Mason nodded, a small, knowing smile on his face. "Feels good, doesn't it?" It did. Finally, we had peace. Not because Tanya was gone, but because we fought back. Together. What would you have done in my place?